Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. This is a quick summary of what we know about how to work in effective teams if we take on board the empirical understanding of compassion. There are lots and lots of definitions of compassion, but we're going to look at an empirical one. My name is Professor Theo Gilbert. I work for the Centre for Learning, Access and Student Success at the University of Hertfordshire, and we're working with the police and other areas of the public sector for creative, effective teams. Here's some quick tips. It turns out that in teams, have a think about this yourself. It turns out that in teams, we've surveyed and interviewed altogether hundreds of people now on this, that there are two really difficult behaviors that turn up again and again in teamwork that spoil its outcome and spoil the experience of people in that team. In other words, the team can't bond as well as it would have done, and it certainly can't think as smartly as it could have done. Now, what are those two behaviors? You may have come across one of them. Have a think about this. Have you ever been in a team or a meeting anywhere where one person did so much talking, sort of taking over, that other people didn't get much chance to speak? That's a real problem, because that means your team is like a plane flying on one engine. Have you ever been in a team, when we think about the second behavior, where one person, maybe yourself, has really not contributed to anything? They've been so quiet and silent. Well, would you believe it turns out that these are, from our surveys and work at the University of Hertfordshire, are the most common behaviours. And it turns out that where we're working in the public sector, the same is happening there in the workplace. The thing is, the trick is, the most important thing is, colleagues, is to remember that nobody is to blame for that. Nobody is to blame for that. I mean, think about it. In universities, we're working in highly competitive, individualistic places, where everybody's got to worry about their grades, their scores, their percentages, and how they fared against other people, because that's self-esteem. Self-esteem, oh, what a nasty, toxic concept that is. Self-esteem means measuring yourself against everybody else in some aspect of your personal performance. And that is an unsustainable, crash and burn any moment now situation that you're putting yourself in. And it can really, really hurt you. It can make you anxious. It can make you less able to actually think clearly, think creatively. In other words, compassion is an alternative. But what is compassion? As I said, there are loads and loads of takes on what compassion is. But if we look at neuroscience, clinical psychology, group psychotherapy, the Compassionate Mind Foundation, for example, then we can see that compassion for teams, in teams, means noticing, not normalizing, noticing distress or disadvantaging to yourself or others or your whole team, not normalizing it, and then doing something wise about it. We say wise because there are an awful lot of things we can do that can make things worse. So what would we do about those two behaviors that could really transform the way you feel about your teamwork, the way you look forward to it, and the creativity that is nurtured by that? Well, first of all, to remember that nobody's to blame. We have our reptilian brain is 500 million years old, and in it we have our lovely, lovely threat system, which is fight or run like crazy or freeze. And those are very important mechanisms to get us out of trouble. Imagine we see something move in the grass. If we were prehistoric people, and we had to do something quickly, our brain would immediately try to save us. And that's the reptilian brain. It's 500 million years old, but it's a bit overstimulated today in, shall we say, in media, in politics, in education, in business. This is a competitive thing, you see. And it can really turn up in teams with these two behaviors, all right? Because one of them is about taking over, right? And the other one is about freeze and withdraw. If we overstimulate the reptilian brain to keep producing those behaviors, when in fact, no, we're actually very social, team-based animals, we can get into a lot of trouble. So let's have a think. What would you do? What would you do about any of these behaviors if you met them sitting in your team? So we'll have a think about sitting in the team first when you're all sitting together, and then we can think about what the wonderful Dr. Jaya Sundra has found when all of that is converted to the online team meeting. So one of the things that's really important, if you can do this in your teams, I'm going to start thinking about dismantling these behaviors now without, very importantly, without blaming, patronizing, humiliating, or silencing anyone. Golden rule, no one's to blame. We all do these things sometimes. These two behaviors come up in our own lives. One of the golden rules is to make sure that whenever you speak in your team, you look at everybody. You're looking at everybody as a single organism. It turns out that Vertical et al. In Canada in 2002-2003 found that when people thought that somebody was looking at them when they spoke, that is to say, when onlookers or team members thought that the person speaking at any one time was looking at them, participation equalized. That's just what we want, not monopolizing and not silent behavior. We need everybody's opinion, and that means the monopolizing to let that in, and the speakers need to have the courage, if we can help them, and if they can, to come forward with ideas that may be absolutely vital to the team. Vertical et al. Found that participation was equalized, and problem solving and decision making was of better quality too compared to controls when folks thought that any speaker was looking at them. So this is what we might try and do this. Now, if you're a neurodiverse student, 1 in 7 of us are neurodiverse, don't worry. First of all, you are vital to your team. I wonder if we're going through some sort of evolution of the brain now, as Professor Gardner at Oxford University suggests. The architecture of our young people's brain is changing a lot with digitalization, but also this notion that there are 1 in 7 of us who are neurodiverse is very important. Helen Taylor et al. In the Cambridge Journal of Archaeology, or the Cambridge Archaeological Journal, I'm so sorry, I can't remember, 2022, have written a really, really interesting paper that without neurodiversity, which was evolved purposefully and deliberately into the human cognition and its evolution, we wouldn't have survived, because we wouldn't have had available to us radically alternative, different ways of thinking. When we met existential crisis after existential crisis. In other words, let me say this again, neurodiversity is vital for those important flashpoints of alternative thinking that can get us out of trouble. And it's a great, great shame that neurodiversity is not nurtured and cultivated as much as it should be in the education system, because we've got a lot of world problems to solve now. And the ideas are not always forthcoming over how to break the deadlocks of why those ideas are not getting through. But let's go back to our team. So we're really trying to look. So even if you're neurodiverse, try and look at everybody if you can. And I have to say to all of you that we're finding that our neurodiverse students are really trying valiantly, bravely to do that. It's just an amazing act of courage to witness. But that they are encouraged because other team players know how to nurture that and bring that forward. So let's just go back, and we'll think about that too in a minute, but let's go back. And we're thinking about now how we're looking at everybody in the team. We're looking at everybody in the team now. In our brains, it turns out, Del Monte et al. Discovered, and have written a fantastic paper in Neuron 2022, that there are 4 areas in our brains which house neurons whose purpose we hadn't understood before. It turns out that their purpose is to work together in complex ways to extract meaning from social gaze in primates. Now, if you think about the neocortex for imagination, reasoning, criticality, and rationalizing that we humans have, and it's very well developed and it's still developing, then goodness me, what that means is that we're making meaning of what we see in people's faces all the time. And what is there to help us with that? This is really important, because There are lots of other things we can talk about, and I will tell you about those. They're very, very exciting. But the point is, this means that when we're looking at everybody, it means that our brain is actually seeing where everybody else. If I'm speaking to you and I'm looking at all of you as we sit around the table together, I'm a team member. Then it can then you can see that I'm looking at you, and that makes you realize that I am including you in my attention, the greatest gift you can give anybody, and that I really am interested in your opinion, your views. Of course I am. That's why I'm looking at you. But also, I'm reading you in unconscious ways. I can see who may not be very happy today, or have been looking worried, or is about to say something, or doesn't quite understand. It's just amazing what we can pick up. One of the reasons why is because, as Kim et al. Say, we need to develop an awful lot of new muscles in our faces. And this all started to happen around 2.4 million years ago, guys, colleagues, when we had to come down from the trees. We were all out of Africa. We had to come down from the trees because there was no food there. Another climate change. We had to become bipeds. We had to bring down animals. Let me just show you something. We had to bring down animals. I'd love to show you something. Big animals, dangerous animals. We were living in very, oh, look at this, look at this, look at this. Look at that for a lovely piece of animation there. Can you see that? Of animation. That's around 36,000 years old, and it was found in a cave in southwest Europe. Look at this, look at this. Wonderful, 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 what wonderful artistry. So I'm just going to take you back now. I hope that's, oh, I hope you're back now. Thank you so much. So there we go. These are the animals we had to bring down for meat. We needed meat. So nobody could do that by themselves. So we were going to have to really, really think about, well, we had to automatically look out for each other in teams in these dangerous environments. We had to make sure we got back safely together. So we had to communicate. We had to communicate across distances. So the whites of our eyes, the sclera, look at this. Far more than dogs, horses, or monkeys were remained with us, so that all were developed, so that we could signal where is the opportunity, where is the danger. And even now, when we look, people will follow our gaze, especially with the expressive eyebrows here. So there you go. We've got the sclera here. We've got the proliferation of muscles, so that we can have many, many more expressions to communicate something, excitement or worry or whatever it was. Really, really useful in teams. What else did we have? Our skulls flattened very quickly. We had very protruding skulls here. They flattened very quickly so that we could have these expressive eyebrows. Everything was turbocharging in evolution to try and keep our species alive. And you know why that's so exciting? Because that is exactly what Darwin was talking about when he said the survival of the fittest, the survival of the fittest. That means that when there is an environmental change, we know what to do. We collaborate together. Darwin talked a lot about collaboration, cooperation, so that a species can make a good fit to this sudden change in the environment. Unfortunately, of course, the Victorians decided that the fitness meant brute strength, so that we could go and brutalize every country we wanted to. But that is not what Darwin said. Biologists are coming back and saying now very purposefully he meant fast collaboration of a species so that it can fit to a new environment and survive. That's what happened to us. How lucky we are. So we've got the muscles, we've got the eyebrows, we've got language developing very, very quickly, which Helen Taylor and et al. In the Cambridge Archaeological Journal is saying was dyslexia was the disruptor, the innovator of the development of language, human language. Just amazing. So evolution was really, really trying to keep us here, help us survive. There are around 22, at least 22 species of humans. The Naledi people were only found in Africa in 2018. But here we are, Homo sapiens developing over the last 300 years, with all the 300,000 years, with all these developments all coming in from around 2.4 to 3 million years ago. We really are a super species. And now And our ability to look after each other and our environment was really, really very, very impressive indeed. If we lost it now, can we get it back? Of course we can. We can, with really effective teams, transdisciplinary teams, international teams that can really work well and effectively. So when you are looking at everybody, right, you're checking folks out and they're checking you out. But as I say, there's an awful lot of communication coming through there. And again, a huge congratulations to our valiant neurodiverse students who are holding their own here as much as they can, and to the teams that work with them. We see students, we see people in the workplace putting their hand across the table. This is beautiful mammalian brain here connecting with you. We're connecting with you. Heads on the side. My jugular vein is here for you. I'm no threat to you. Nodding, leaning in, smiling. The encouragement that we give each other in teams through these non-verbal gestures are second to none. They are so powerful, so effective at keeping the team together. So we're all paying attention to each other. Here's a little problem. A monopolizer, that the wonderful father of modern group psychotherapies, Irvin Yalom, now passed, I'm afraid, from Stanford University, always remind yourselves, said the monopolizer is often the most anxious person in the group. The monopolizer is often the most anxious person in the group. So again, no blame at all. Remember how stimulated this reptilian system is, this threat system is. Through all these systems we grow up in. So the monopolizer you will often see, cannot look at everybody when they speak. Instead, what you will see very often is that they will lock eye contact with one person and they will talk until the other people in the team think, wow, why did we even bother coming? And as well they might, because this can be set up in concrete, it can be fossilized from the very first meeting if we don't do something about it. So what you going to do? If you are the person that the monopolizer has locked onto, wittingly or unwittingly, willingly or unwillingly, and this person is talking and other people are not getting much chance to speak, then you are the monopolizer's partner in crime. You are the colluder, whether you like it or not. What are you going to do? This is what you do. This is what you can try. Break eye contact with the monopolizer gently. Your face muscles very soft, not tense, just very friendly. Just break eye contact with them and look at Keisha, who may be on the right here. Yeah, Keisha exists too. And then come back and check in with the monopolizer. It's not their fault. And just guide them gently to Ahmed, who might be sitting here. Works like a dream. That disturbance of our very sensitive visual field means that people will say, the monopolizer will often say, oh, Keisha, sorry, what did you, oh, sorry, Ahmed, Keisha, what did you want to say, guys? What did you want to say? If that doesn't work, it usually does. Give it a try. Don't have to say anything. Just use your eyes. Remember, you've got the sclera there for a reason. If that doesn't work, then other people in the group can help. Or, and this is something you can use online as well. Somebody's talking, and you can't use all this visual inclusivity. And there may be other reasons why you can't do that either anyway, if one is visually impaired. Voice, here's another way to do it. With a warm, soft voice, a gentle voice. Not the voice you use for yourself when you're thinking about your self-esteem. Oh, I should have done this. Oh, I'm not going to. Not that tone of voice. The Compassionate Mind Foundation reminds us the tone of voice you use to criticize yourself, quite often when you don't realize you're doing it, is cruel. It's unkind. And it will dampen your ability to focus. It won't enhance it. It will dampen it down because it will stimulate brain chemistry like cortisol, the stress hormone. That stays in your system for 72 hours, Be kind to yourself. Be kind. Self-compassion. When you wake up and you're very stressed in the morning, you're going to breathe out more slowly than you breathe in. Think about something, or somebody, or an animal, or a child, or a situation, or a wonderful place that you are so grateful for. and talk to yourself in a warm, gentle voice. Very important. That will really help tamp down what the threat system is trying to do, and that is to flush your brain with cortisol and adrenaline. You can't think straight like that. So get on top of that. Now, in your teamwork, you can use that gentle voice as well, whether you're online or not. But especially if you're online and you can't use the visual work that we've been thinking about. So you might say, might slip in for where Ben, for example, is monopolizing a lot. Any of you can do this at any time. And just slip in like a little fish when Ben takes a breath. Even I had to do that. And just say in that warm voice, Ben, thank you very much. That's a really important point, for crucial point, relevant point. That's helpful, that's useful. Because please validate, not patronize. So think about why you are picking out a particular point that Ben has mentioned that is very useful. Rationalize that. That is a really useful point, Ben. Thank you, because, and in the same breath, turn your attention to Keisha. Maybe Ben has cut her off a couple of times. Ooh. Her confidence could be draining through the floor if she's neurodiverse, or if she's naturally shy or quiet, or an international student doesn't speak English as their first language. Have a heart, everybody. So, so you might say, Ben, that's a really important point. Thank you so much for that. We're going to need that in phase 2. Keisha, is there anything you'd like to add here? That's that warm voice consistently for everybody. It doesn't have to be monotone, but it's an inviting voice, So if that doesn't work, because Keisha says doesn't want to speak now, she's freaked out, or she's lost her thought, or whatever, or she's very anxious, all Keisha has to do is just do this. That's it. She's just not ready. But everybody in the group, please come back and keep pulling Keisha out as far as you can with your gentle invitation. As many times as you can, ask that cold, dark water into that boat, because without her ideas, you may do well, but you may not do as well as you could have done. Everybody's ideas come from something. There's no such thing as a stupid idea. You need her on. And so if you're a quiet student, remember that your ideas are as valuable as everybody else's. You are needed. And colleagues, I've got to tell you, there's a lot of stuff said that if quiet students in a team don't want to speak, that is their right. Problem, they are in a team. Problem, again, when we invite those students who are quiet to come and talk in interviews and or in surveys, most of them want to talk. They really want to talk, but they talk about big mouths, loud mouths, even teachers' pets. They talk about being anxious that they could say something that's wrong, just simply wrong. There are lots of wrong possibilities and only one right. That's never true, is it? They're worried about humiliating themselves, making fools of themselves, that other people are more articulate than them, more fluent than them, can express their ideas better. And it's this constant self-criticism that has really paralyzed them, paralyzed their ability to contribute the things they actually want to say. And then, of course, they go in hand in coursework, which is outstanding. And their team never got the benefit of their thinking processes. So, guys, so colleagues, dear colleagues, I mustn't keep calling you guys. It's very old-fashioned, and I'm really trying not to do that. So, dear esteemed colleagues, and I do mean that, because every single one of you is irreplaceable, absolutely irreplaceable. You know, the universe has been working for around 3 million years to try and get you into the universe, into the world exactly as you are. One tiny change in the 32 trillion cells in your body, a tiny change, you wouldn't be here. So if your great-great-great-great-grandfather hadn't met your great-great-great-great-grandmother, going back many generations more than that, under that tree in Africa, which is where we're all from, and only 5 minutes ago, by the way, you wouldn't be here. And you are a miracle. Think of all the kindnesses that you have generated throughout your life that have changed circumstances for other people. And the consequences of your kindnesses you will never know because they ripple out. Think about if anything happened to you, what about all the kindnesses that you will generate through your life? You can't even count them. And the effects that will ripple out from those, there's no doubt about it. The way that you are experiencing your life like a part of it, feeding to big collective consciousness feedback loop, the way that you're experiencing your life in everyday moments is not replicated by anyone else on the planet, nor has ever been or ever will be. You are absolutely irreplaceable. So here we are. We're going back to our team. And what we're finding, here's something exciting. What we're finding is that when Keisha does this, we can also encourage her to, or to ask another student, could you help me out, Ahmed? So that's a great idea. If you're a Keisha, and we're all Keisha sometimes, I don't want to say anything here. We're finding that when a quiet student is not quite ready in that moment to speak, but you're going to invite them again and again. Well done, beautiful team workers. You were created for this over nearly 3 million years. What Keisha can do is just say to another student, Ahmed, could you help me out? Now, here's some really exciting magic. We see this even in filmed postgraduate exams where discussions are being filmed. And we see tutors thinking, oh no, when they're watching the film or examining, in the same room with the students. Oh no, Ahmed is even quieter than Keisha. This is not going to go well. Here's your reminder. So sorry. I have terrible short-term memory problems, and Alexa talks all day because of it. But she does help. So sorry, everybody. So sorry. So here we are. So what we're finding is that the Ahmed will actually smash it. But what about all that? What about all that that worry that the quieter students often have that they'll say something wrong, and the motivation has changed. We are all deeply compassionate people. Our brains were designed that way. And that means that we're seeing students who are very shy saying that when they're asked to help, the motivation now is to get somebody out of trouble and help. That's what our species was created to do all this long time ago when it came to working in teams. So we're seeing people's marks go up, and we're seeing the monopolizers as well being more concise. And when we examine this, we see that tutors are saying they're more concise now, and they're listening more, and it's what they're saying is richer. So everybody is a winner. And again, that's why the public sector are asking us to come and help them with this stuff too. And it's working. They're writing to us saying their teams are really effective now. Anybody can do this. Absolutely anyone can do this. So if I could leave you with that, I just want to remind you, because this is a summary, I just want to remind you that compassion, according to neuroscience, clinical psychology groups, psychotherapy, there is lots and lots and lots of definitions for it, but let's go for the empirical one. As I said, compassionate mind foundation in teams, noticing, not normalizing distress or disadvantaging to yourself. Okay, so we've got this area of the brain to help us. We know we can be very, very vigilant. If we have a look at that, that's empathy, actually. Noticing and working out how people may be feeling or why they may be thinking the things they are. Empathy is a wonderful thing. Sometimes, not always. Consider how a torturer from Guantanamo Bay would need to watch, listen to, really study vigilantly their victims to know how they're going to create the most amount of fear and pain. The Compassionate Mind Foundation points this out a lot. Here's another example. If a murderous psychopath, I don't want to I don't want to imagine myself as such. But if a murderous psychopath wanted information from you or from me, they would hold the gun to our heads, right? But if a murderous psychopath was also empathic and then very, very serious, this is why your teamwork is so important. You are the hope of the world for in your teams, wherever you are, whoever you are. Empathic psychopaths are running the world at the moment. It's our education system as well. It has really blown this, especially in some countries where segregation of people is the norm. An empathic murderous psychopath is not going to hold the gun to your head or to my head for the information they want from us. They're going to hold it to the head of the person that you love most. It could be your partner, parent, your child. Empathy also underpins advertising, you know. Think about it. There are so many lonely young people. After COVID, we were all told to socially distance, socially distance. World Health Organization said, no, physical distance, not social distance, not social distance. We are a very, very social species. We can't survive like that. So now, of course, there are so many lonely people, and it's so easy now, isn't it, to tempt them into this brand of alcohol or that brand of alcohol by showing lots of people having a fantastic time at a party, all together, you know, dancing, having a wonderful time. It's how we sell through empathy in the advertising business. I am not part of the advertising business, I hope, not the industry, but you know, and new parents of a newborn baby show a baby in a potentially dangerous situation, and you'll be much more successful at persuading the parents to buy this particular nappy diaper or that particular medicine or this particular food. So you can put a baby in the middle of a busy road, or done with computer graphics, I've seen that, or in a cage with wild animals, I've seen that. So let's be careful about empathy. Empathy has its own neural circuitry in the brain. This Klemecki et al. Found out, Olga Klemecki, very good on this, Klemicki. But so does the neural circuitry she and her team have found of compassion. That's different. There is a distinct neural circuitry for compassion in the brain that lights up, that draws on empathy. So empathy is not the full story. Empathy without the second part, take wise action to reduce or prevent that distress, is also does not need an emotion. It's another cognitive skill like empathy. No matter how many emotions may accompany compassion, it is not an emotion. It's a psychobiological motivation that helped our species survive, like hunger, so that we eat, like tiredness, so that we get the rest we need. Compassion developed for that purpose too, so that we can survive, get home, get each other home safely. It's really a matter of life or death for our species. And so that is decision making. Take wise action to reduce or prevent that distress or disadvantaging. That's decision making. The police do that, but that's what they're meant to be doing. Take wise action when they see somebody in distress or in trouble, depending on their training. The same with health workers, depending on their training. Don't be rushing off in floods of tears if you're a fire worker, a fire officer. You've got to get in there depending on your training, watching vigilant for any fire hazard, and where that could do even more damage. Keeping yourself safe and others through training, decision-making, problem-solving through smarts. So we can say that compassion really depends very much on just being smart, vigilant, taking in the information and deciding what to do, to help each other out, to mentor each other like crazy. If people have not done the work, it may be because they've, when they come to the team, it may be because they've had this problem or that problem, or this is some kind of avoidance. Two people in your team, not one. Try and help them along. Try and help them get started, get launched. In other words, that means that they will know that they need to give back. With this kind of teamwork, you'll often find that you will be empowered, you'll be motivated to want to give back as much as you're getting. And more and more. And remember, what you do give will come back to you come back to you manifoldly, many times over. If you keep your team working on these rules, keep your team working on these rules. No point if just one person's doing. It's got to be everybody. It's got to be everybody. And remember also to allow silences. Don't jump into silences, as some folks have told us they do because they can talk for England. And silences are so awkward, aren't they? No, they're not. They are spaces, reasonable silences, in which your group is, your team is thinking, digesting what's been said, and thinking about the next way forward. And this also is a magic space for how the quieter students can now find a way in. I'm going to leave you with that. My name is Professor Theo Gilbert. It's a joy to tell you about this wonderful, exciting science of teamwork, which we're so hoping we can get into education. And you may help this too, so creatively in your own teams where you are right now, because you can take this into the workplace. Very, very good luck with this. Take the very best care of yourselves. Remember, breathing out more slowly than you breathe in when you get stressed. Thinking about something you're really grateful for, possibly the face even of an animal, a dear dog, up here, or a child, or a dear friend. Not somebody you're missing, please, because that's going to upset you, but somebody that you are really grateful for. And remember that warm voice. Compassion starts with yourself, and then you can be such a formidable force for good, for compassionate teams that are creative, innovative, and resilient. Take care for now.